Hello, adventurers. For the past couple of months, we've been going through this article called Top 50 Dungeons & Dragons Tips for DMs, and we were giving out some really good advice. Most of it was very good. Some of it was some of it was fine. But I figure, we're done with that article, first of all, and we got to move on to something else. So let's do the total opposite of that. And I found an article called 15 Horrible Tips for DMs. We're going to do the worst advice we possibly can. We're talking about why these things are bad and why you shouldn't do them. This is going to get split into 2 episodes. So the first half of it is going to be this week, and then we'll do the other half next month. Link is in the description. Read along with us. Hope you enjoy yourself. And now let's roll the episode. Everybody roll initiative.
Sometimes talking with friends feels like role-playing. Sometimes it feels like combat. Join us at the round table and roll initiative. This is Curmudgeons and Dragons.
Hello, adventurers. Guys, welcome to Curmudgeons and Dragons. My name is Jason Portizo. I am here today with Mr. Jim Crocker.
Hey.
And Josie Diaz.
I like to start the show by bothering you before you start recording.
That doesn't mean that's before you start the show. It's literally not starting the show like that.
Oh.
She likes to pregame the show by being as much of a pain in my getting her pain in the assity out of her system.
I get all riled up. I get so excited.
Something like that. What's the only time we hang out anymore? So, all right. Greg tried getting off of work today. Couldn't happen, which would have been weird for him to request off of work so he could record a podcast. I wouldn't honor that request either. So good on Jim's bosses for being good bosses, apparently. Greg will be back later in the month. But today, so we just spent the last several months doing the top 50 DM tips for Dungeon Masters. And a lot of them were really, really good. And whether the tips were great, the episodes were I had a great time doing those episodes.
I thought they were fun.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
We ran out of them. There was 50 tips there. 40 of them were actual tips. And we could have been 12? Sure. But
listen, 50 is a lot of rules to
50's a lot.
Out.
And 5 episodes later, we ran out.
4 to 5 is a good hit rate, though. So
right?
It's not too bad. Yeah.
So I thought today I found a different blog, and this is coming from the DMlayer.com. And this is the 15 worst DM advice. You guys ready to tell DMs what not to do?
I think it's just going to be a list of things that
yeah.
I will want to do as a DM.
15 things Josie can't wait to do as a DM.
This is my top 15 list of DM tips.
No, 15 bad tips for DMs. Don't do these things.
I mean, and I think it's important to note that this is not don't run somebody over with your car type of thing, or run somebody over with your car. Actually, that would be a tip, a good tip.
Well, just wait till you hear tip number 1, Jim.
But this is...
I can tell you haven't read this.
Advice people have actually given. My quick glance is I have seen people that actually posit this as actual DM advice.
Yeah, this isn't 15 things you should never do. This is 15 actual tips that people will try to be helpful and tell you to do.
Yeah.
When
that is not the case.
And in this blog writer's opinion are not good things to do, and we'll weigh in and see if we agree.
Yes. All right.
Let's jump right in. Bad tip number 1. If a player is causing a problem, just kill their character.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
You would, Josie.
My God.
Which is why I've never been a DM.
Yeah.
Killing a problem player is obviously it's a last resort. I'm not saying never do it, but that's when a player's got to go too. And they're you can't just have their character floating around without a player.
I don't know. You can just pretend they're off doing what the fuck ever. But
yeah, true. They don't have to die. They can just go off peacefully into the night.
Those I think are the same sentence.
That's Shakespeare. You're living in Bath, so that's good. Yeah, that works. This is the most passive aggressive thing that you can possibly do. This is the epitome of don't actually talk to the person about what the problem is. Do something to them and hope that they make the connection between that completely unrelated thing that you did and the thing that you're mad at them about, which is just the worst.
Yeah. And this is going to I'm just going to get this out of the way now. Almost all of these can just be solved with just good communication among players. If a player's being a problem, try to try to fix the problem. If they got past session 0 with a character that does not fit in your world, either, if they have to change characters and something, that character fucks off somewhere for the rest of the session, or, that could be death, but this should not be just, this player's causing a problem, just kill him.
I think if you're going to do that, it has to be like immediately the very first thing that you do in a campaign. If somebody's being a shithead, be like, and you're dead. Okay, roll a new character.
Right.
I think that might be fun. Just teach everybody right from the gate. No fucking around. There is
something to be said about just like laying down the rules from day one and say, okay, we all need to know that I ain't fucking around here.
In this game, I am God, and you will listen or you will die. Just like the Old Testament.
Do you want to end up like Smishtar, the dead fighter over there? No? All right, get in line. Number 2, never say no. Say yes, but instead.
No.
Sounds like toxic positivity to me.
You know what I say to that? No.
Sometimes you can't yes, but a situation. Not everything's an improv class.
I like that. I like the idea of like try to find the yes, but there's some things where it's just like, hey, can I have this magic item that I obviously can't handle just yet? That'll probably warp your game. No, you can't have it. Can I bring this homebrew bullshit to this game?
No.
Hey, Jim, can I bring this homebrew bullshit into this game?
You may not.
What if I ask real nicely?
I will say no very nicely.
Okay.
Is what will happen there.
That's fair. That's reasonable.
I mean, like that said, no, and here's why is always a good practice.
Yeah.
But gosh, there are some times where it's just no, and you know why.
Right.
Can be the answer.
Sometimes your players just ask you something real fucking stupid. And you have to be
this isn't even like about like homebrew stuff or overpowered stuff. Sometimes they just want to do something in the game that their character straight up is not able to do. Like,
yeah, and this is one of those things where there's different kinds of no. There's like no that violates some kind of safety and consent thing that we've established.
Sure. Yeah.
There's no that's going to mess up the game in a mechanical game balance kind of way. There's no, I know you're just testing my boundaries, so let's establish that it doesn't go past here.
I think the only unacceptable no is because I said so. Don't know because I said so, somebody. I think.
Well, and
you have to give an explanation.
Sometimes you gotta say so.
And the corollary to the first one is don't know somebody's character because you're mad at them in real life, when if you weren't mad at them in real life, you would let their character do that thing.
Sure.
That's the other corollary there. You got to make sure that works both ways.
Right. And it's like some rules things too. It's like, okay, that thing's 50 feet in the air. Can I just jump to try to reach it? It's like, no. Well, what if I do an athletics check? You're not going to do an athletics check to jump 50 feet in the air. Okay. Roll an athletics check. Your DC is 45. Go. Which is essentially saying no. Number 3, the Dungeon Master's fun doesn't matter. It's all about the player's fun.
It is all about the player's fun, but the Dungeon Master is a player.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Do people really give that as advice? Like, everybody else is allowed to have fun, but me.
You know what though?
It's not about you're not allowed to have fun. It's about putting the player's fun absolutely first and not even considering your own. That's where the advice. That's where the bad advice comes from. Where
so
it's like,
many of those DM Academy threads are, I'm not enjoying this game at all, but my friends seem to like it. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Tell them, hey, I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah. I mean, you do have more control over the game than the players do, ideally. And it is up to you to bring it back to a place where everybody's having fun, including yourself. You should be, you're putting way more time into this than they are. Most players don't do a whole lot between sessions. Maybe some inventory stuff or some spells, some spell preparation consideration. But as a DM, you're doing a ton of stuff in between sessions. In fact, I lost my last 2 sessions because my DM didn't have stuff prepared on time, and he didn't want to run a subpar session, and we allowed him to do that. And schedule wise, it worked out great for me because I was going to cancel anyway. But he doesn't need to know that. Joe, if you're listening, thanks. So,
you're awesome, Joe. Keep up the good work.
He's been doing great. It's his first like major campaign. Let me rephrase that. This is his 3rd attempt at his first major campaign. But so far he's doing great. But like, you should be enjoying yourself. Jim, what's a thing that would make you enjoy your own campaign?
I mean, one of the things that I always try to do is to make sure that I create a few NPCs that I decide are, I don't want to say off limits, like they get plot immunity, but they're just like people who can enjoy the PC's company, you know? Like not everybody I create has to be, quest giver or the queen or somebody that's, desperately trying to backstab them or something like that. I always make sure that I have like an innkeeper or, a medic that helps them out or something like that, who is someone who I can just occasionally just sort of kind of hang out with the characters. You know what I mean? And like and just having a character like that, even every 3-4 games, takes the pressure off of me to kind of always be, thinking 3 steps ahead and, planning out my dungeons and all that kind of stuff. The other thing that I find fun is I unload as much of the narrative stuff on the players as I can. If I don't know what the big bad's plan is going to be, I'll just go around the table and say, what are the rumors you've heard about what they're planning? And I'll get like, there's 5 potentially interesting ideas about what they could do. Take a couple of them, throw them in a blender, mash them up. And then that's what I'm going to do. And then like, I look like a genius because I predicted what they were going to say, when in fact what I was doing is just responding to what they were saying. But to kind of offload as much of that work as is fun for everybody. I don't want to I don't want to make them do homework or anything, but to share as much of that as I can. I find that fun to make the story as collaborative as we can make it.
Yeah, and even myself DMing, and I'm just doing these kind of like pre-made one-shots mostly, at least for now, until I have more time on my hands. But even just like a lot of them will have role-playing guides for some of the NPCs or some of the big bads and stuff. And like, I will pour over that paragraph of a role-play guide and just make sure that, like, to me, doing voices and getting in character is a lot of fun. That's a bad DM tip we're going to tack on a little bit. But to me, that's a huge thing where just like, it's just completely not be myself, which is difficult for me. And I love the challenge. And my players like, and I've said this before, where like the players should know exactly what character they're talking to within like the first 2-3 words of you being that character. I had one, this is a pretty popular one shot called The Wild Sheep Chase. I've run this a few times and I've heard other podcasts allude to it before. So I think this one's pretty well known. There's we'll call him a small bad. One of the first big bads you meet.
Just a little evil fellow.
Yeah. He's a huge, he's a
mini boss.
Yeah. He's an orc or a half orc. His name is Gus. He uses big words incorrectly.
Incredible.
And I just had like this kind of like this like long mouth kind of like voice for him. Just like, that sheep belongs to Master Noak. And like the second I spoke, like they knew exactly who he was. Yeah, he was a ton of fun. Plus I got to talking to sheep voice the whole time, which is great. But yeah, I mean, like I have a blast when I DM. Everyone's coming over to my house for eating my food. I might as well have a good time too, Number 4, it's a game. The DM should play to win.
No. Not everything has a winner. Some things are collaborative.
Let's start with even like, what the fuck does that even mean?
What? How do you have who wins a game of Dungeons and Dragons? How do you win a story?
And I see this from like very inexperienced players and DMs where like, they think a TPK is a win for the DM. They think it's the players versus the DM. And that's just a common misconception for very new players. Where like, why, if that's the case, and it's like, okay, well, session 0, cool, you guys are level 1. Here's your task, and ready session 1. You meet in a tavern. You look around. There's a barkeep. There's an elf sitting next to you, and there's a fucking Tarrasque. I win. like that's, how's that fun? First of all, and like, it's got this combative nature to it that just doesn't belong in this game.
I don't understand still how you would go about winning a game of D&D either as I don't get it. It doesn't make sense for telling a story of a group of people for you to be like, okay, I don't know where I'm going with this thought. I'm just upset.
So in my experience, and this is beyond gaming, where we just as people go into things with a mindset of a me versus something else type of situation. I've seen this not only as a DM where like I was at a get together last night And I invited one of the guys to come play, and he's like, he's like, yes, if I ever get to play, I'm just going to like kill everybody and take over. I'm like, you're not playing with me then. You have a lot to learn before you can play at my table.
Or conversely, you could invite him to your table and then whip him into shape.
Yeah. I would love to make a real player out of him. I don't think he's going to take it seriously enough, though, but that's a different issue. So we see it as DMs, and like outside of gaming, I see this as, still in gaming. I was a Magic judge for a very long time. And,
I was gonna mention Magic as the kind of the flip side of it.
Not player versus player. You can come at
D&D like you're playing Magic, and I don't think that's the right way to do it.
So the player versus player mentality of Magic actually belongs there. However, in a tournament situation, there was a lot of high level players who saw the judges as adversarial.
Sure.
And we're the ones enforcing the rules and giving them penalties when they screw up. But we're also there to just make sure the game is played as fair as possible. And a lot of them saw us as the bad guy, whether they had bad experiences with other judges in the past, or a lot of them knew us, a lot of the locals anyway, and they knew we were, also players, and they knew we were, at least most of us were cool. But we had players that kind of just walk in with their guard up. And then outside of gaming, I'm a sound engineer. I work concerts for a living. So at local venues, when we get some local band who's never seen anything before, they think the sound guy is the enemy. They walk in with their guard up, and they're just ready to give me as much shit as they possibly can, not realizing that we're both on the same side here to put on a good show.
Not every interaction with other people has to be combative.
Is that just because you're the man, or what? I don't get that.
I see this a lot with younger bands, particularly teenage bands who are playing their first couple of shows, and what has probably happened before, and I'm just guessing from when I was a teenager playing shitty bands. We went to a venue on Sunday afternoon, and the hungover sound guy was just not ready for us to be, excited about the show, and us being excited turned into us being dicks, and then it just kind of now we have a bad experience with the sound guy, and now our only experience with the sound guy is a bad one, so that we think every sound guy is going to be an asshole. But we're only assholes because you're assholes. Be cool to your sound guys.
I also imagine that if you if you're a new band, you probably get stiffed a lot by shitty bar owners and stuff. And if you then take a step up if you take a step up to a venue where you're actually going to be treated well, you don't have a way to know that the sound guy there is actually on your side and not just another tool that works for the boss who's going to stiff you or whatever. So I could see that.
Yep. I was the Sunday afternoon guy at a very small punk venue for 5 years. I've seen some bands made up of 14 and 15-year-olds playing their first shows ever, and the only people there are their parents and uncles, and I get to be the one who teaches them and say, okay, here's how this works. Here's how you keep people happy with you, and here's how you put on a good show. And I got to help out a lot of bands, and some of them actually listened to me and they had a great time, and some of them thought they were already rock stars and they had a terrible time. And either way, I was happy to oblige.
I think it comes down to really wanting there to be somebody to blame when things don't go the way that you want them, and it's easy to pick something out like that in any stressful situation. So you don't want something to go wrong in your campaign, you don't want something to go wrong with your music.
So let's bring us back to D&D. So DMs, it's too easy to just think that a TPK is a win for you, and the players thinking that getting one over on a DM or derailing their plans is a win for them. There was a horror story that I read. It's not even worth doing a whole episode for, but the TLDR of this whole thing is that guy was DMing for it might be brothers and cousins or something, and friends, and then the little brother joined, and the little brother was just refusing the call to action. And the call to adventure rather, and by leaving the city and just completely forgetting about what's going on, he's just okay, well, you don't have an adventure and the game's over. And he immediately thought that he won. So every time he played, or I guess the kid's mom forced him to let his brother play. So every time he played, he would just derail the campaign as fast as he possibly could and call it a win. Maybe that is a good story. Maybe I'll bring that one.
Yeah.
We'll take that story up. We'll do a horror story about that one, because that's a great one. Remember, this game is collaborative. Maybe collaborate with people at the table. I don't know. Number 5, encounters should all be super challenging. Without risk of death, there is no fun.
I don't really like that. I want to get away.
This is bad advice, Josie. You're not supposed to like any of these.
I'm aware of that. And I'm agreeing that it is bad advice.
Obviously, you need some sort of deadly encounters. There needs to be some stakes on the table. But stakes
stakes doesn't need to be death. Stakes
Sure.
can be reputation. Stakes can be resources. Stakes can be political capital. Stakes can be all of those things. They're
Stakes can be
actually way
your
more
money.
interesting.
Yeah.
Could be, cash, cold hard cash.
Could be the magic item you just fought so hard for.
Clinking gold pieces, exactly.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff's more interesting than because when the stakes are death, it's like either if you win, it's just the status quo. Everything continues as it was. If you lose, the game is over. That sounds super boring to me. Like, especially in a TPK where it's literally just like, that's it, you're done.
If that's the only version of stakes that you're bringing in, I think having a deadly encounter is super important. I mean, sometimes you got to fight for your life.
Yeah.
You have to fight for your life at some point.
But if every encounter is a deadly encounter, none of the encounters are deadly encounters.
Yeah,
because they're all the same.
Yeah,
you need an easy encounter here and there, and a medium encounter to actually set the level for what a deadly encounter even is. So,
plus, you want to talk about having fun for the DM and the players. Have you ever set up a battle that was meant to be a bloodbath? Just sending like wave after wave of little shitty guys and just having them just get slaughtered by the PCs and letting them feel like rock stars for a second.
Mm-hmm.
This is an extreme, obviously, but throw them a bloodbath encounter too. These are legendary heroes. Let them feel like it.
Yeah, let them stand on the pile of corpses that they have amassed, a la 300.
Yeah. Number 6, balance everything around the players.
I don't know what that means.
So let me just read their own description from the blog here. I'm just going to read this verbatim.
Stupid.
This is coming from the DMlayer.com. So I was going to read it verbatim. So yes, but no. Here's the thing: D&D is a game, so most things should be balanced around the player's characters, in my opinion. However, not everything. Every so often, it adds a sense of excitement and drama when the characters find themselves up against an enemy that is way beyond their pay grade. In fact, some of my best game sessions have resulted from players going up against the odds and somehow surviving. And that would have never happened if I only ever presented them with balanced encounters and situations. For instance, one time I put a dragon turtle in the dungeon designed for characters who were way too low of a level to even think about fighting it, and an amazing game session resulted.
Never upset a dragon turtle.
So I think this is a little bit of a spin-off from the previous one, and the like only super challenging encounters, but like you can do that if there's other ways around those situations. That
was where I thought he was going with that.
Yeah, like if the only thing you can do is do a stand-up fight against a creature that's like 8, that's like whose challenge rating is 8 above your level or something like that, you're just going to get mauled, and that's just how that's going to go.
Yeah.
But if you can outsmart it or outwit it or, sneak around it or something like that, then yeah, that's cool. That's, you get a little bit of that kind of like Dark Souls sort of, well, I sure can't fight this thing, so it's going to, run my ass past it or sneak around it, through this tunnel on the side or something.
Yeah, this is how you get
and that does make the game interesting.
This is how you get like diplomacy wins and sneak wins and even just like diplomacy in other ways. So like not even, I don't know how much you can be a diplomat against a dragon turtle, but like you can diplomacy your way into getting help from, city guard or some other legendary hero who's retired that you're bringing out of retirement, a favor with a god, that kind of thing to help you in the fight, which I guess would be balancing it.
And there's a flip side to that too, which is you talked about the bloodbath fight, right? About the your party's 12th level, you put them up against a bunch of 3rd level orcs or something like that. You can throw an unbalanced counter that's unbalanced in that way, where they show up and the kobolds go, "Oh shit, it's you guys. You know what? We'll take you wherever you want to go. Just don't hurt anybody, please." Yeah. And that's kind of a cool thing to do too, because if a year ago you were struggling against that kobold lair full of traps, and now they're like, oh, it's you guys. Okay, yep, nope.
Yeah, what do you want, please?
We don't want to mess with you. That can be a cool thing too, that where it's like unbalanced in the other direction.
Yeah.
I think I misunderstood what they meant by balance. I didn't picture that as like equalize. I know that's what balance means, but I was thinking more like you adjust it according to how challenging you want the story to be, or like if it's time to give them a break. Like balancing doesn't necessarily mean to me like make it all easy for them to get through.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so like give them what they want within the narrative.
That's kind of how I took it too, where like there's guidelines on how to, scale encounters, and to I think this is like, the bad advice here is to make sure that everything is exactly to scale at all times.
Yeah.
Where like they should be going they should be going up against things that they shouldn't be going up against. And see if they're smart enough to run or whatever.
Yeah, and certainly, you can create things in the world. And I mean, I think the other thing about that balance, everything, like I said, that goes from the other way is the things they left behind that they're higher level than, those still exist. And the things that they're headed towards that are higher level than them, there should be some sense of where those are and what's going on in the world. And so that you're not just kind of moving along in a bubble where everything is within 2-3 levels of you at all times.
Number 7, never fudge the dice.
Do what you want.
You got a screen for a reason. That is a liar screen.
You don't want, like, if everybody's rolling like close to ones and you just keep rolling 20s as the DM and you're about to kill everybody and it's like the second session, where is the fun in that? Like,
I definitely fudge to keep players alive.
You need to say, fuck it, I'll give it to them.
I never fudge the dice. Ever. I will alter DCs. I will alter hit bonuses. I will change armor classes. I will tweak the number of hit points that things have, but I don't ever mess with the dice.
Okay.
That's a bold statement, Jim.
I believe you.
The same. It's exactly the same thing. That's fine. You can, if the hill you want to die in is I will never fudge the dice, then that's how you just reframe it. Just, you didn't fudge the dice, you just lowered their armor class of the critter so that they could hit it.
I have definitely fudged. I was getting walloped, first of all. My players were beating the crap out of all my things, and I was rolling like shit. But they didn't have to know I was rolling like shit. So I got a couple of hits in while they were slaughtering me. And there was more than once. There was one in particular that was like, it was re-rolling for a dragon's breath weapon. And if I got that 5 or a 6, it would absolutely have been a TPK. Because actually in the play guide for that encounter, the dragon has like 0 intelligence and just blindly attacks. If it has its breath weapon, it 100% uses it. So I'm like, and I rolled the 5 and I'm just like, yeah, he doesn't get it back. You guys live one more turn, and just, took some claw attacks instead and only killed one guy instead of 4. But, fudging can be, you're not fudging the die, you're fudging the narrative, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because whatever is going to make for the better story and for the better encounter. Because for that one, those players needed to take a couple of hits because I wasn't doing it by myself. And the other one, I wanted them to live. Fuck me, I guess.
Well, but there's also other ways to fudge the dice. So like when you talk about, and this just popped right in my head because you're talking about recharging the dragon's breath weapon, right? Which you could roll that at the beginning of the dragon's turn and they do their stuff and then it goes blah or not. Or you could roll it at the end of the dragon's turn and then telegraph to the players whether it's got it next time or not,
Yeah.
Like you roll at the end of the turn and you go, it's still gasping. There's just little wisps of smoke coming out of its nose. It's clearly not going to be ready to blast you next time. So they can go, oh shit, okay, we have a turn. We can heal the paladin and whatever. And, give the fighter can take a big swing and not have to worry about, having to get his shield up or whatever. Or you can say you roll that 5 at the end of the turn and you go, oh, yep, it's breathing in and you can see the lightning crackling around its eyes and whatever. Yep. And so like you're telegraphing that it's gonna, which is a little different than fudging it. But I mean, when you make the roll and how you communicate the roll is as important sometimes as what you actually roll.
Yeah, I like that a lot. One more for this session, and it's kind of the same thing. So make sure we get these together. The dice are just guidelines. Make up the results you want.
I think this one is just a compliment to the one before it. Like, fudge the dice, but don't do it all the time. Give you some boundaries to work between.
I think it's just trying to be like, no, make sure the dice actually mean something.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing we say most often in all of our my games with my friends is like, if somebody makes a terrible roll, they critical miss when they really needed a hit or something, we'll all just sigh and say, well, the dice help tell the story.
The dice tell a story.
Because they do. They help.
That phrase goes well beyond your table, Jim.
Yeah. So yeah, don't reject the help that they give you.
The dice do absolutely tell a story, and sometimes they can tell a story better than we can. Because I would not have had my fighter miss at that point. But yeah, I mean, if you're rolling dice, I mean, like this is it's a game. Games use numbers and random number generators like dice, and if they don't mean anything, then just sit around and tell stories instead. That's a perfectly fine way to spend a Sunday night.
That's actually how Frankenstein got written.
Oh, by playing D&D?
Yeah. Or
seems like 60 years too early.
Or telling stories at a party altogether.
Right.
Just,
Yeah, those me. Like Byron had actual rules for who went when and how you could tell the stories and stuff like that Frankenstein emerged from. Yeah. It's a cool story.
Shout out to Mary Shelley. Hope you're a fan of the pod.
I'm not doing the math, but there's no way she's still alive.
No, absolutely.
We have some games in my collection here, and in friends' collections that they bring over. I think one of them is just straight up called Once Upon a Time. I think.
Yeah, and it's a card game. It's a wonderful
card
narrative
game
storytelling card game.
Yep, exactly. Collaborative storytelling game with a lot less rules than D&D. And there's nothing wrong with spending a Saturday night playing those kind of games. But if you're playing D&D, roll some dice and have them mean a goddamn thing.
Also, the less the dice mean, the less the choices that you've made for your character mean. Because people make a lot of choices based on, that D20 is incredibly swingy. And, you could settle everything in D&D with a coin flip if you wanted to. But one of the things that the dice do is they give you that range, and then you build your character based on where are my limited resources going to go to cut down that range of uncertainty. That's what everybody is doing when they're, taking feats and skills and proficiencies and all that kind of stuff. You're saying, how can I get the D20 to swing in my favor? And at some point, if you cut out too much of that, then you're also cutting out the significance of those choices people are making for their characters. So you should
100%. So there are 15 bad tips in this article. We're going to split this up into 2 episodes here. So that is 1 through 8. Stick around next month. We're going to do 9 through 15. But let us know what you think about these bad tips. Do you think any of these are actually good tips? Do you have any worse tips?
Or do you agree with all of these and you should never be a DM?
But the link to the article is in the show notes. You can check that out there. Your big call to action, you listeners, the number one thing I'm going to ask of everybody is just to share the podcast. If you're a DM, share this with your players. If you're a player, share it with your other players. We need to get those numbers up so I can do some cool things. But we've been getting
leave comments. Tell me you love me.
Yeah. We've been getting some good comments on the YouTube. We've been getting a bunch of emails recently. Kind of snowballs. Once you get a few, they start pouring in. So I'm absolutely loving the interaction that we're getting with you guys. So keep that shit up too. Love that. But yeah, please share this podcast. It is the absolute best thing you can do for us. It doesn't cost you a damn thing. And that's all I got today. Jim, Josie, thank you so much.
You bet.
Anytime.
That's going to be it for this one. Stick around next month for the conclusion, the thrilling conclusion of the 15 worst DM tips. And we'll have a horror story coming out this weekend. We'll see you guys then. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Please share this with your favorite adventurers. Leave a review on Apple and follow us on social media. All links can be found at curmudgeonsanddragons.com. Practice safe adventuring, my friends.
This has been a JTP Audio podcast. Thanks for listening.